Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about last night's AEW as well as tonight's Impact Wrestling. And we're going to start straight up with last night's AEW. We saw some very impressive matches, one of which was an 8-man tag team match between Orange Cassidy, Daddy Ass and the Acclaimed, taking on the team of Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, and Jeff Jarrett. Now, I said it last night, Sanjay Dutt is a hilarious guy. I love to see him, whether it be in the ring, whether it be on mic, whatever. And he doesn't really wrestle. You know what I mean? But that's what makes it so humorous to me. That's what makes it so entertaining to me. Satnam Singh got a chance, I believe it was last Friday. Actually, it might have been 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago on a Rampage. He got the chance to show his strength, to show his in-ring capability, and he did. He absolutely did. Now, the result, my prediction was correct. Orange Cassidy, the Acclaimed, and Billy Gunn did get the win. However, nonetheless, I still think this is an interesting little tidbit here because Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends have been feuding with they've been feuding with Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh and Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett for a little while with the Golden Globe Award, and everyone involved kind of has some history with each other. You know, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, they have history with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, which is why when the Guns took the titles away from the Acclaimed and away from um, Daddy Ass, it gave them the opportunity to focus on some of their old rivalries. It gave them an opportunity to cash in and renew some old rivalries that they have had with some other teams when defending their titles. Now, we also saw a Texas Tornado tag team match between Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, taking on the team of Roosh and Preston Vance. Now, I was correct in saying that Moxley and Castagnoli would beat Vance and Roosh. However, nonetheless, I still think that match was incredible. Roosh deserves so much more in AEW. Preston Vance, upcoming guy, former number 10 of the Dark Order. You can tell AEW's trying to do more with him, especially that they're giving him dynamites now. And Roosh has been wrestling on multiple different dynamites these past couple of weeks. You know, he fought Danielson last week, now he fought Moxley and Claudio last night. You know, Roosh is a guy who he needs more. He needs to be treated better in AEW, and hopefully he'll start getting some wins under his belt as the time goes on. Now, we also saw Mark Briscoe take on Josh Woods. Now, again, I had said it in last night's episode. If Mark Briscoe lost, then what the hell? Josh Woods, a tremendous athlete, former Ring of Honor TV champ, but he hasn't been utilized properly. He hasn't been utilized correctly. He hasn't been given any good things when he's been in AEW. You know, he barely has anything right now in terms of AEW. Mark Briscoe is a much more utilized wrestler since coming on to AEW, and like I said, it's really more so because of the loss of his brother, which is disgusting, but it is what it is. And I was correct, my prediction was correct. Mark Briscoe did defeat Josh Woods last night and get the victory. Now, we also saw, as always, a great promo from the Maxwell Jacob Friedman, from the AEW World Champion, the owner of Triple B, Big Burberry Belt, the generational talent himself, the devil himself, if you will, MJF. And MJF, as always, you know, he does a lot of talking, and he said at Revolution he's going to expose Bryan Danielson. And well, Christopher Daniels instead was the one to come out. Christopher Daniels came out and spoke on Danielson's behalf, but MJF was not having it. MJF had snapped. MJF had attacked the Fallen Angel. He attacked Christopher Danielson, and sorry, not Christopher Danielson. He had attacked Christopher Daniels, And then we had Bryan Daniels come out. Sorry, I'm getting the names mixed up here. Bryan Danielson come out and save Christopher. But as always, MJF makes these segments so entertaining with his promo skills, and then bringing out a veteran, a guy who's been doing this for 20 plus years, probably even longer, the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, a guy who knows Bryan Danielson very well, as we all know, a guy who is a former X Division World Champion in Impact Wrestling, a guy who is a former was he champion in Ring of Honor? I'm not sure, but a guy who has done a lot that there is to do in Ring of Honor, a lot that there is to do in Impact Wrestling, and he made his way to AEW, and he pulled off a great segment with MJF. He pulled off a great way of sticking up for someone that he knows very well in this business, Bryan Danielson, and it's another one of those things that is just egging on and inching closer and closer to this match at Revolution, and I'm sure that these next couple of segments are all they're going to do is entertain the fans even more going into Revolution. Now, we also got Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Brian Cage. Now, this match I want to comment on quite a bit. This match was very interesting. Brian Cage obviously is 1/3 of the 6-man tag team champions for Ring of Honor, and Brian Cage has fought Jungle Boy before. He's lost to Jungle Boy before. And he suffered another loss tonight. I was correct in saying that Jungle Boy won the match, that he would win the match. That was my prediction. That prediction was correct. However, Brian Cage did do the unthinkable. I'm sorry, he didn't do the unthinkable. Brian Cage did perform very well, as he always does. Brian Cage showed up like he always does. He showed out like he always does. And it's one of those things where Brian Cage is someone who, when I first started watching AEW, which was during quarantine, he was a guy who, in my opinion, was carried a little more higher, on a bit of a higher pedestal. He was a guy that got pay-per-view matches. He was a guy that was, somewhat utilized and somewhat seen. And now he's a guy who all he really is there for is to put other people over and to put himself under. And it's no disrespect to Jungle Boy Jack Perry. It's simply looking at Brian Cage and thinking, well, why isn't he getting more? Because the dude is incredible in that ring. The dude, like if you look at the match that he did with Jungle Boy last night, you will even see for yourself that his maneuvers, his in-ring capability was that of someone who is as big as he is, but also so flexible and so talented and so maneuverable in that ring. And he was able to pull off a great match with Jungle Boy. I mean, this was one-sided in my opinion, because it was really one of those matches where Brian Cage, the Machine, was controlling the match with his pure strength, with his pure dominancy. And then you have Jungle Boy Jack Perry, the underdog, the guy who is looking for gold, the guy who's looking to keep building himself up the rankings. And he did pull off the victory. He did pull off the win, which is impressive for him. And I'm happy for the guy. I'm incredibly happy for Jungle Boy. However, I want to see more. I want to see more from Brian Cage. I want to see more from Jungle Boy, because I feel like the ending to that match didn't get as big of a pop as it should have. I feel as though Jungle Boy hasn't been getting as big of pops as he should be, because this is a guy who you can tell, like I said in yesterday's episode, you can tell AEW has been grooming him for the past 2 years, if not longer, and building him up to be something bigger, to be something better than what he currently is. And right now, ever since distancing himself from Luchasaurus, ever since beating Luchasaurus at Full Gear, he hasn't been on that level. However, that being said, last night we did see the return of Christian Cage after the match. We did see Christian Cage attack Jungle Boy after the match, and we also saw Christian Cage take the sling and the brace off of his elbow, off of his forearm, proving that he is ready, that he is able to get back in the ring. And then he used the kill switch. And again, maybe this is what Jungle Boy needs. Maybe this is what's going to get him to Revolution and have some big match, because I know what some people are thinking. Some people are thinking, well, he's going to have a match with Christian Cage and it's going to be, 10, 15 minutes. No. He needs to have a substantially long match at Revolution. He needs to have a match like what Jon Moxley had with CM Punk, or like what Jon Moxley had with Minoru Suzuki, or any match that Jon Moxley's had on pay-per-view. He needs to have a match like what Moxley and Danielson had at Revolution last year. That needs to be that match. Jungle Boy needs to have that big match, that big moment with Christian Cage that is going to up this rivalry, that is going to finally once and for all have all the emotion, all the setting, everything. It needs to have that intensity poured into it. And Jungle Boy, the Christian Cage is the key to unlocking the success of Jungle Boy. Christian Cage is the key of letting out that inner beast that is Jungle Boy. And we need to see that happen at Revolution. And I think it could go one of two ways. I think we could see just a basic match between the two at Revolution, or we could see Christian Cage and Jungle Boy fight each other for a qualifying match to go into the ladder match at Revolution. But I personally think that the better way to put this rivalry to a close, that the better way to just have an all-out match between these two is to do it at Revolution. To do some major game-changing match at Revolution between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Christian Cage. Now, we also saw Hangman Adam Page versus Kip Sabian, and my prediction, for the most part, throughout this this match card that I commented on in yesterday's episode, it was correct. We saw Hangman Adam Page defeat Kip Sabian, and, that's not surprising. It's not to be disrespectful to Kip Sabian, like I said, very impressive wrestler. I see a big future ahead of him, but Hangman Adam Page is on top of his game. I mean, he's coming back from injury. He's been out for a while. He's trying to make up for lost time. He's trying to punch his ticket to Revolution just like everyone else. And so, this is his moment. Just like, Jon Moxley. Like, I would not be surprised if Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page find their way to one another once again. If we don't see them fight each other once more, whether it be at Revolution, whether it be leading up to Revolution, one way or another, I think both men will face off at least once more in AEW this year. Now, we also saw Ruby Soho versus Dr. Britt Baker versus Toni Storm in a triple threat match. Now, this match was interesting to me because it had a big bit of intensity to it. It had I feel like it lacked a certain, I don't know, I feel like it lacked a certain bit of intensity, but it was also very intense in certain spots as well. It had multiple different spots. It was very entertaining, but I think the match pace was a little slow in my opinion. I think the overallness of it all, I think it was, I give it like an 8 out of 10. Like, I think it could have been just a little bit better, because this was a match I was really looking forward to. However, that being said, my prediction was wrong. Toni Storm did not win. It was Ruby Soho. However, I was correct in saying that Saraya did get involved. And the way the match ended was very interesting to me because Ruby Soho came out of nowhere, stole the win from Toni Storm, got the pin over Britt Baker, and then we saw Jamie Hayter and Saraya get in the ring. And Ruby Soho was kind of in the middle. And it confuses me because Ruby Soho is seemingly the one right now that is being built to get another title shot, to get a title shot against Jamie Hayter. But then you have Saraya, who has been a thorn in the side of Jamie Hayter. And those two have been arguing and have been at each other's throats. And so, I don't know what we're going to see between those two. I don't know what we're going to see happen between those two, but what I do know is that it's probably going to end in chaos. And I also think Ruby Soho really deserves this. I think that she should be AEW Women's Champion, in my opinion. However, that's probably not what's going to happen. But I do think that she 100% deserves this match at Revolution if she were to fight Jamie Hayter at Revolution for the AEW Women's Championship, because I think Ruby Soho, since coming back, since taking on Ty Mello and taking on Anna Jay, I think she has been kind of groomed for this match, for a title match, and I want to see it. I think it'd be really entertaining. I think it would be absolutely perfect to see that happen. Now, moving on to the match card for tonight's Impact Wrestling, we have Chris Bay taking on Kushida. Now, this one is a bit of a tough one. Whenever I see Chris Bay or Ace Austin in the ring, you know me, I usually go with them due to the fact that the Bullet Club has been built up for a little while here to gain something, right? The Bullet Club has been built up for a while to get a match against the Impact World Tag Team Champions, known as the Motor City Machine Guns, and obviously this match makes sense because Kushida is a tag partner to the Motor City Machine Guns. And so this match makes so much sense because if Chris Bay can pull off a win against Kushida, this could build up for a match against the Motor City Machine Guns. However, even if he were to lose this, I think this would still benefit Chris Bay because this could still potentially bring in the Motor City Machine Guns against the Bullet Club. And on top of that, in March, it has been confirmed that New Japan is going to be working with Impact Wrestling for a pay-per-view in March. And Kushida is going to be fighting the Impact World Champion, whether that be Josh Alexander or Rich Swann after No Surrender happens. And so either way, I think this could benefit both wrestlers. And this is a tough one to go with, but I think I'm going to go with Kushida on this one. Because I think he is overall the bigger veteran in this. I think he's overall the guy who's going to pull off the win. However, I think this match is still going to set up the Bullet Club to take on the Motor City Machine Guns later down the line. Now we also got not one but two qualifying matches tonight to decide who's going to go into the Fatal 4-Way at No Surrender for the number one contenders match. And the first qualifying match is Steve Maclin versus Rhino. Now, I'm obviously going to predict Steve Maclin on this one because Steve Maclin has been unstoppable these past couple of weeks, maybe even these past couple of months. His Falls Count Anywhere match with, his street fight with Rich Swann was so intense. And it proved that Steve Maclin is really a guy that Impact is trying to build up. He's potentially the next challenger for the Impact World's title. And so I think Steve Maclin's obviously going to go to the Fatal 4-Way. So I got to go with Steve Maclin on that one. Our second qualifying match is Eddie Edwards taking on, Rhino's partner, Heath. And no offense to Heath, great athlete. He's gotten wins where I didn't expect him to get wins. But I gotta go with Eddie Edwards on this one. Eddie Edwards is, he may be heel. He may no longer be the heart and soul of Impact Wrestling like he once was. But he still has such an intensity. He still has such an in-ring capability. And if he's not in that Fatal 4-Way, if he's not in that number one contenders match, I don't know. I just don't know if it hit the same. And so I gotta go with Eddie Edwards on that one. Now, in singles action, we also got Kenny Kane taking on Rich Swann. And obviously, this is a no-brainer. I've got to go with Rich Swann on this. He, in I think, 2 weeks from now, he's going to be taking on Josh Alexander for the Impact World's title. And that match means so much to Rich Swann. That match is everything to Rich Swann. He needs that match. He wants that match. So going into this, I've obviously got to pick Rich Swann because this is proper build-up. And this is going to be his way of proving to the guy watching in the back, Josh Alexander, that he is coming for the Impact World's title at No Surrender. And finally, we also got Alicia taking on Masha Slamovic, and same as the Rich Swann match, I've got to go with Masha Slamovic. She's the woman that is competing against Mickie James at No Surrender for the Knockouts for the Knockouts World Championship. And obviously, Masha Slamovic, she's been on top of her A game here. It surprises me that she is, up for the challenge, that she's the woman to compete at No Surrender. But this match, was one of the first confirmed matches for No Surrender, and so I am dead set focused on this. I am hands down going with Masha Slamovic for this match tonight against Alicia, because this is going to build her up into No Surrender, and whether she wins or loses, she is fighting Miss Hardcore Country herself, Mickie James, and so she's going to benefit from that match one way or another, and the build up going into that match is going to benefit her even more, and so she's obviously going to beat Alicia tonight. Yeah, that's my opinion on that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the results of AEW, as well as the thoughts and predictions for Impact Wrestling. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget, this Saturday, stay tuned for this Saturday's episode. Elimination Chamber predictions are coming up, so please stay tuned for that. And as always, thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.